Constitution was written, it had to go to the states to be ratified, the 13 states at that time. And there was some states that were reluctant to do that. And so the Federalist Papers were written to explain what was in the Constitution and why it was there and what these people who wrote the Constitution were thinking. Merriam-Webster, a pleasure. She took this on and translated it into English that we can understand.
They were written, they were newspaper editorials. And so they would come out in the New York City newspapers and in newspapers around New York State, 2 or 3 every week, so that the citizens would know why they should ratify the Constitution. This was completely unique. The United States of America, nothing had been tried like this before. And so they had to explain, why did they set up the Constitution in this way?
Right.
So the authors of the Federalist Papers went all the way back to Greece, and they looked at every attempt at self-government. So any government that wasn't a king, a dictator, a tyrant, when they tried to form a republic or a self-government, and looked at what worked and what didn't work. And it's government's job, primary function, says the Federalist Papers, number 10, it's government's primary function to protect our unequal abilities.
Right.
Is that bizarre? I was just like stunned. It's their job to protect Bill Gates and you and me. Equally.
The same.
The same, exactly.
Now you mentioned republic.
Yes.
Now I heard just the other day from politicians right on TV that we live in a fine democracy.
Yes, they do use that word, and democracy, I think when it's used sometimes, they use small d democracy meanings, basically they mean self-government. They don't mean democracy. A democracy, I wasn't sure until Federalist Papers what a democracy was, but literally in a democracy, every single person meets, and every single person decides where the traffic lights go. There are no representatives of the people. So you don't have a city manager, you don't have policemen, you don't have any representatives whatsoever. The people all meet and they decide every single issue. So we have a republic, and that means that we elect or in some other way pick people that represent us. And in the final say, it's our Constitution. And of course, that's why they expected every single citizen of the United States to be armed. So just in case the government ignored the Constitution.
Right.
Final case, you go and you overthrow the government, because the government is not an entity. Only people are.
I thought the Second Amendment was just for the guys that go chase down Bambi.
Yes. I know you don't believe that, but I am stunned to find out some people believe that the Second Amendment has to do with hunting animals. I have no idea where they got this idea.
But not from the Federalist Papers.
Oh, Lord, no. In fact, they very briefly mention the right to bear arms, because it never occurred to them that an American would ever give up their gun.
Right.
Ever. I mean, it was just like they just go,
you just don't
why
do
would
it.
you do that? And so it's like when the first person asked me, okay, could you give me all the quotes from the Federalist Papers on the right to bear arms? And I'm going, oh my, this is going to be a really short paper.
Right.
And it is. You know, I have that one card,
yeah,
and I have every single quote on that one little card, because it was so beyond their imagining. I mean, they had just defeated the greatest empire in the world, because every single person was armed and every single person believed that this was their country. So since there are a lot of people that want to lead, they like power or money or both, and that's what we're here to block, because there's got to be some of us that just say, no, we're all equal.
Well, I think there's a lot of people now that are just saying no. because they've had enough. I mean, you got the government in every aspect of your life.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. There's something written from gun control to bladder control.
Yes.
I mean, they are there.
Yes, you know, they laugh, but the truth is,
yeah,
our toilet is regulated.
I know.
The founders are going, oh my God, we went through all that so they could regulate toilets.
Right.
And then I'm also on some expert sites saying, if you have a question about the Federalist Papers or the U.S. Constitution, you may ask me. A student asked me, this is only 3 months ago, you know, the Founding Fathers really knew a lot of history, and they seemed to know all about it, and I was real impressed, because he was right. This is like a history text. I now know all about ancient Greece, ancient Rome, you know. And he says, now how did they do that without computers and CDs? And I just put down, they read.
Read, yeah.
What a concept.
Right. Private property is one that we are facing in this country. It's like an attack on private property. Did the Federalist Papers address that?
Oh, you bet. Because again, it's the government's primary function to guard each of us and keep our ability to collect property. So that we each have that. And they talked a lot about it. And of course, one of the things they were worried about, because they had just fought a revolution to get a country,
Right.
out of the country. And so they were really concerned about a federal government that would come and take property from the states. So if anyone has a copy of the Constitution, it says specifically what property the national government can take. And it's just a tiny little bit for Washington, D.C. The states involved had to agree. Tiny little bit for forts. The states had to agree, but they figured the states would probably want to agree because of, you know, the attacks from foreign countries. Yeah. And a little bit for arsenals and navy yards if the states agreed.
Agreed, right.
That's it. They cannot take another piece of property. All the rest of the property belongs to the state.
We gave them that 10-mile square, DC, just for that purpose, and said, okay, here, be government. But we didn't put up a razor wire fence around it to keep them in there.
No, we didn't.
That's the problem. You keep saying, I call them the American Socialist Secures, and you can shorten that down.
Yes, yes, very nicely.
Very
actually.
nicely, but they're everywhere. They're in every branch of government. I've never seen anything like this.
There's no freedom.
Right.
There's no freedom because the government micromanages every single little thing.
Everything.
And guess what? They talk about regulations ruin business in here. Regulations stop discovery and innovation. It's in here. You don't regulate.
230 years ago.
Yes. Not only that, they say if you tax something too high, the revenue to the government will go down.